Okay, guys, I swear that I'm not becoming a RuneScape YouTuber, but Lazy Peon just put out a video about old school RuneScape, and it's just rare that content comes out for this game that I want to react to, and I want to react to this. So, like, I mean, when I say just put it out, I mean 9 hours ago. I don't know what's going on right now. The Matrix is cracking, and as I make content for RuneScape content starts popping up like crazy on the internet. So let's watch it.
Before we begin, this is a video that I didn't plan on making. I have a long list of other games I wanted to cover first.
Yeah, but I started doing a series on RuneScape, and now the universe. No, I'm kidding. I'm not that narcissistic, I promise. But like,
But a few weeks ago, I was looking for something fun to play in my spare time.
Old school RuneScape. Oh man, what a bad choice though for old school RuneScape to be the game in your spare time. It's not a spare. I mean, it's in all of your time.
Something that'd give me some nice dopamine hits that I could play casually to relax with. So I downloaded old school RuneScape, created my first ever Iron Man character.
Heck yeah, dude.
And what followed was a 2-week gaming binge where within 10 days I had 120 hours of playtime.
Standard for what happens anytime I log back into RuneScape. I started my series and now I can't stop thinking about RuneScape. All of my brain power when I'm doing anything else in my life is just devoted to thinking about Varrock and what I'm going to do while I'm in Varrock.
And became completely addicted to the game. So in this video we're going to talk about
good organization, dude.
Old school RuneScape in 2024. Is it worth playing? What's new? Is it too late to start if you've never played RuneScape before?
Let's hear what he has to say.
How the hell could a 20-year-old point-and-click game ruin my life for 2 weeks as a fully...
It's such an amazing game. I don't want to beat this dead horse anymore. I don't want this video to be extremely long because I've already made some really long videos reacting to RuneScape things, but gee whiz, it is so much more than just a point-and-click game. That is just the interface of which this game exists on.
Grown adult. But first, today's sponsor, Sword of Convallaria, a brand new turn-based tactical RPG with a captivating story, deep strategy, and unforgettable characters. With over 120 hours of single-player gameplay and more content online,
I wonder how well these games actually
do. Be immersed in a world filled with tactical battles.
These little
where
new games that come
matters.
out that pay for ads on YouTube channels. I wonder how well they actually do.
Lead your team of mercenaries through dynamic 3D terrain, strategizing your moves with environmental interactions to outmaneuver your opponents. But what's really cool
Final Fantasy Tactics vibes
is that the choices you make throughout this game will shape the fate of Iria and lead to one of many unique endings. What I love most about Sword of Convallaria is the depth of the characters and the world building. Each character has a unique backstory and motivations, and the political intrigue and hidden truths will keep you guessing. Plus, the 3D-like pixel art graphics are absolutely stunning, with vibrant landscapes and detailed character designs that really bring the world to life. And to top it all off, the game's soundtrack is composed by the legendary Hitoshi Sakamoto, whose music has graced many beloved classics including Final Fantasy and Ogre Battle. So what are you waiting for?
Ogre Battle. Who remembers Ogre Battle 64? Ogre Battle 64 was good, but Brigandine for the PlayStation 1 was the best version of a turn-based strategy game, in my opinion. The ability to evolve your monsters, the ability to make all these different teams, and the 3D battles were legendary. Oh man, I love Brigandine.
Or join me on this epic journey and discover the fate of Iria in Sword of Convallaria.
We should play Brigandine sometimes.
Link in description, download the game now and use my code SOCTLP to get rewards and experience an epic adventure. So first of all, let me explain that there's two different versions of RuneScape. You've got old school RuneScape and RuneScape 3. TLDR, OSRS and RuneScape 3 are completely different games. OSRS is more
RuneScape
popular,
3 is on the list. I will be playing it at some point in the future.
Simpler gameplay, and has tons of incredible content creators on both YouTube and Twitch, so I prefer to play that version. RuneScape 3, I made a full video on it last year, so check that out if you want to know more about that game. So I basically log into old school, create a new character, do tutorial island, and at the end I'm given the choice to make my character an Iron Man or just a standard character.
And he goes for it. Iron Man is such a good way to experience RuneScape, especially if you have a whole bunch of experience playing RuneScape already. When Tiff first got into old school, I made a hardcore Iron Man, and I started playing that because I was really interested in Settle at the time, and I liked the idea of playing without a bank account, and I liked all the challenges that gave me. And yeah, it was a whole lot of fun. I got a cash stack of over 100K within my first 3 hours of playing. it was very easy to get things that I needed and to amass the resources, and I never pushed far enough to actually have any struggle with a hardcore Iron Man, but I think it makes you think about the game in such a unique way. It's really, really cool.
I decided to try Iron Man for the first time because this game mode is absolutely zero pay to win.
Ultimate Iron Man?
You cannot
Actually,
trade with other players.
Hardcore, sorry.
Every item in the game you must obtain yourself, and basically every accomplishment feels earned. I do have a standard main account for...
You can play RuneScape on a regular account while still earning all of your accomplishments. You definitely can. I like the ability to trade with people because I like the ability to... I think that that's something that is built into the RuneScape experience. I think that getting handouts, buying gold, and using the Grand Exchange excessively to not gather items and things, just to buy gold and then buy things off the Grand Exchange, is the thing that robs you of the RuneScape experience. But if you want to do that, that's totally fine in your own choice. I am not one of those people who feels like you being able to do something easier than what I'm making myself do it robs me of anything. I think my personal accomplishments are for me, and that's why I play RuneScape. People have a hard time understanding that. I've gotten a lot of comments on previous videos where people want to say things like, oh, you know, it robs you of what you get and blah, blah, blah. Dude, challenge is taken on by a person in order to prove to themselves that they can do the challenge, not to have some kind of clout come from it. I know the internet has misled all of us into believing that that's the opposite is true, but it's not.
OSRS, but I kind of lost interest in that since I could skip a lot of content by buying bonds, selling them for GP, and at that point any valuable drop you do get doesn't feel as impactful. Within the first few hours of playing my Iron Man, I could feel myself becoming more and more addicted. I didn't record anything during this time because I was playing for fun and not content, but every quest completion, every time I earned a GP, every tiny upgrade, the dopamine was nuts. It was also during this time where I really saw how different old school RuneScape is in 2024 compared to a few years ago.
There's so much new stuff that's been added, even in free-to-play worlds. I didn't know that they had the adventure paths and the things, the rewards that you can get from doing the adventure path stuff. And there's a lot of new stuff just sitting around in old school RuneScape that you wouldn't expect to be there. Little things, little updates to the areas that you walk across, and you're like, oh, this is new. That bar in Lumbridge that has the X marks the spot quest that gets you into Corinne, that's totally new. That wasn't there. That wasn't part of Lumbridge back in the day.
First of all, the RuneLite plugin client is now officially supported by Jagex and can be opened directly through the RuneScape.
I'm actually playing on the RuneScape client for the new experience because I think that the majority of people who would play the game brand new would just play on that client. So I'm trying that out for the first time, and so far I'm liking it pretty well.
Launcher. 70% of the player base play the game through RuneLite, and the plugins you can get for it nowadays have literally transformed the game.
And also that way I don't have Quest Helper or anything either, which I think it's totally fine. I use Quest Helper all the time on my main account. I think that it's really useful for a bunch of quests that I don't really want to have to think about when I'm just trying to make progress on an account. But when you're trying to have the actual experience of what RuneScape is like when you're first starting out and you're playing, I think that doing it fresh, maybe even without guides, is the best way to go for it.
One of the biggest complaints about OSRS I see from my viewers is to do with the graphics being too bad. Well, not anymore, because if you enable HD, increase the draw distance, enable animation smoothing, and maybe change the UI a bit, the game actually looks like it has modern stylized graphics.
Yeah, not only that, a lot of people say that the combat and the movement. People do not like the point and click movement, which I think is so interesting because it bothers me not whatsoever, but that's because I've been playing it for a super long time. Clicking on the map, not having to hold a button down in order to move is so useful and good for RuneScape because you can do other things like Googling things or you know, AFKing. RuneScape is one of those games where you can spend a whole lot of time playing it because you can do it while doing other things. One of my biggest faults with something like World of Warcraft is that there's not a whole lot of ways to be active in it when I'm busy doing other things. And as somebody who spends a lot of time being busy, I like that there's a game that I can always be playing in the background. I got to 92 strength in old school by Nightmare Zone, and then mirroring my display using Google, what's it called? Google Remote. And then having that open on my phone and just clicking every 20 minutes, making sure that every 20 minutes I clicked. And that's how I got to 92 strength, by being out in the world and living my life and working and just being AFK in Nightmare Zone for hours and hours at a time.
Just look at this difference. Wow. Also, if you like the old style, even that's improved if you enable the GPU plugin, which makes the game look less pixelated. RuneLite also gives you better camera options, much more in-depth UI customization, change the controls, highlight tiles and objects. Basically, if you can think of it, there's probably a plugin for it. But the biggest way RuneLite's plugins have changed my experience with RuneScape this time around is with my favourite plugin of all, the Quest Helper.
Yeah.
RuneScape has the best quests in the entire MMO genre. It's not even close.
And this is a big reason for why I think that people are having this come to Jesus moment with RuneScape in 2024. This is a big part of why I think it's having a resurgence, because this game, the quest system in it, actually feels like you're doing something that is meaningful. Who remembers doing Demon Slayer and washing one of the keys for Silverlight out of the sewer into the lower sewers and then going down there and that key actually physically being there on the ground and you go there and grab it? That is such a... I know that sounds like such a simple thing, but it makes this world feel real in a way that other worlds don't feel real. World of Warcraft is really good and the zones are beautiful, but the things you do in those zones don't feel like they have any kind of effect on the world around you. And I know that things stay the same, but your character is actively making change, and you can't be far into the game. You cannot do a quest where they reference a quest that you've done previously without you having done that quest previously. And that is a major quality of life improvement for immersion in this game that looks like this. They know that the graphics aren't very good, so they have to make the rest of the game amazing, and gee whiz, they make the rest of the game amazing.
But admittedly, I've always followed quest guides to do them because they're quite in-depth.
Yes.
Often require obscure items, and sometimes...
There will definitely be later quests where I will have to use guides, for sure. There's especially a lot of the members quests I will not remember how to do, but some of them I'm not going to use a guide for on purpose. I don't really remember how to do Murder Mystery because it's a quest that you fly through, but I can't wait to get to Murder Mystery and try to figure out who killed this person. It's such a cool game because it doesn't completely feel like an MMO, and I sometimes think it shouldn't even be lumped in with other MMOs. It feels like a point-and-click game like King's Quest, but it's a massively multiplayer online point-and-click game like King's Quest that has incredible combat and just... Ooh, man. Someone made a comment on my last video about RuneScape where I said that RuneScapers don't play RuneScape for the movement and combat. And what I meant by that is that RuneScapers don't play RuneScape for the early game combat and movement because it is really simple. But dang, later on, when you do fight caves in RuneScape, the fight caves are your turning point as a RuneScaper, where you start to understand the mechanics in a really interesting way. You have to survive 60 waves of enemies and then fight a boss at the end that's really decently difficult, especially if you've never done anything like that before. And learning how to use the mechanics of the game to do things that seem impossible, like fight 60 waves of enemies using safe spots and knowing which prayers that you need to have and flicking prayers between attacks and things. Oh man, one of the most interactive games where if you miss something, you're dead and you lose 30 minutes of your time. Talk about difficulty. It's huge, dude. It can be so frustrating. It took me 7 tries to do the fight caves my first time because I'm terrible at this game. And when I finally did it, dude, I felt I was tripping on dopamine for days.
Sometimes take hours to complete. With Quest Helper, it literally allows you to turn your brain off, follow the instructions, and it will hold your hand until the quest is complete, letting you know if you've made a mistake or forgot an item. For someone like me who's already done certain quests a bunch of times on other accounts, this made the entire process of progressing a new character so much more enjoyable. I went so hard on the questing with my Iron Man for like 8 days straight, and very quickly got to over 1,000 total level with over 70 quests completed. I've never spammed quests in RuneScape so fast before, but thanks to Quest Helper, it was actually fun to do so. Unfortunately for my Iron Man, he lost his hardcore status super early.
Yeah.
I was doing the waterfall quest and didn't actually realise the moss giants inside the tomb can hit
Smack
a 14.
hard. Yep.
So they max hit me and I had my first death on day 2. I probably probably should have...
It's actually best if you're going to do waterfall quest. I think a really good method to go about it is to try to maybe even rush like Holy Grail or something, but get a whole bunch of prayer XP really early on so that you can have protect from melee, so that when you go in there, you can be safe against the giants.
Started over at that point, but I decided not to, as I wanted to learn more about the game so that when I do decide to do a hardcore Iron Man again in the future, I'd have better game knowledge. Another big change I noticed with OSRS in 2024 is to do with the training methods and XP rates for skills. The last time I played this game, rune crafting was notorious for being one of the shittest, most boring skills to train in the entire game. It was basically a meme. But nowadays, for me at least, that's not the case thanks to a new rune crafting minigame Jagex added called Guardians of the Rift. I really enjoy this minigame, and it's actually made rune crafting one of my favourite skills now.
Yeah, Guardians of the Rift is cool. I've only done a little bit of it. I just finished the pre-quest for it on my last... I'm getting back into RuneScape Bender, and but it's a good time, and it's definitely a lot of help. I need to train rune crafting.
There's also new methods for training farming with farming contracts, hunter with hunting contracts, as well as a bunch of other new methods that I haven't even had the chance to try yet. As I continued to play my Iron Man, I found myself digging deeper and deeper into the...
Skilling has gotten so much better in RuneScape. There are so many ways to get your skills up. I love doing tree runs for farming. I would have never have gotten farming to my 60s if I wouldn't have done tree runs for that skill. It's... The knowledge that has gone into breaking this game or into solving this game is so immense, and it has been so helpful, because when I was young, the highest level I ever achieved in RuneScape until I was an adult was 70 combat level with like 80 quest points or something, because it was just a really hard game. It was extremely difficult. It took a ton of time and commitment, and I was a young kid who didn't have that kind of commitment to give to a game.
RuneScape rabbit hole, looking at all the stuff that would be waiting for me at Endgame. There's a lot. If you're into PvE or PvM as it's known as in RuneScape, there's an insane amount of stuff. You've got...
Bossing is awesome in RuneScape. It just is. It's so bizarre how this game goes from having the most point and click, stand there and hope you don't die, eat food whenever you need to combat, to having some of the most incredibly enthralling combat by the end game. Like I said, by the time you fight Jad and you learn how to juggle ads and fight an enemy all by yourself, that's the most amazing thing, is that in this game you can do everything as one single player, and I mean, Settled is doing it with 1 HP right now. That's how incredibly good you can get at this game, that you can no-hit run RuneScape.
Got 3 different raids: Slayer bosses, world bosses, instanced bosses, mini-game bosses, and skilling bosses. To complete all of this stuff, especially on an Iron Man, we're talking about thousands of hours of progress, and that's not even mentioning the time it'd take to actually get good enough to beat the hardest content the game has to offer.
I can't wait to do
Dragon
Slayer.
On the PvP side of things, the main thing I've dipped my toes into since returning is the Last Man Standing game mode, which is super fun and a great way...
I like PvP in RuneScape because, unlike in other games, you don't have to have a separate build for RuneScape. You just have to use separate knowledge and skills for it. One thing that always bummed me out about SO is that in SO you want to have a minimum of 4 builds at all times, so a healer, a tank, a DPS, and then a PvP build as well. And that necessitates you buying 2 extra armory slots for your PvP, or for your PvP and your healer or tank. And I always think that's a huge bummer. I always think it's a bummer that in World of Warcraft, you have to learn a whole new way of playing in order to do PvP. But in RuneScape, the same skills are going to, like, carry over. You just have to figure out how to actually outdo a person.
Way to get better at PKing without risking anything, as well as PvP worlds which allow you to duel with friends in whatever gear setup, inventory, or stats that you like. I especially love these PvP worlds because I remember back in the day when I used to play, I used to spend a lot of money on GP for supplies to practice dueling with friends. For new players looking to get into old school RuneScape's PvP, you can basically learn everything with almost no barrier to entry nowadays. Then when you're finally good enough, you can go deep into the wilderness to hunt for other players to take their sweet, sweet loot. RuneScape's quite a polarizing game for people who have never played it before. If you've never played the game before, you'd probably take one look at it and think, is that it? It's literally just turn-based auto-attack combat. You click on something and it dies. Where's the skill in that? which is a fair
Well, it's a rhythm game. It's every 0.6 seconds is a game tick, so you have to understand what tick you're on and how you're using that tick and what you're doing when you're clicking something else. If you waste game ticks later on, you will die. You have to become absolutely tight with the game ticks, and that's something that is so hard to explain until you played RuneScape, but you will understand after about 100 hours the rhythm of the combat in this game and the way that you can manipulate that combat to do things that seem impossible. And the game itself is built around you understanding the things about the combat that the game doesn't tell you, because the later content that has been added in necessitates that you have the ability to do those things that are hidden mechanics in the game.
Meant to make, but one thing you'll quickly learn is that despite seeming incredibly simple, the skill ceiling in RuneScape is probably one of the highest in the MMO genre. For me to explain exactly why this is the case, it'd take an entire video on its own explaining things like the tick rate, prayer flicking, how movement works, and a bunch of other stuff that'll sound like a foreign language to the casual.
I can do it really quickly. So the tick rate, we've already covered that. Prayer flicking. Prayer flicking is, so you have overhead prayers in RuneScape, which make you invulnerable to certain attack types, magic, range, or melee. You can only have one active at a time. Different attacks will come in at different ticks, so you have to know which attack is going to hit you on which tick. You flick to that prayer in order to make yourself invulnerable during that tick, and then you move to the other prayer whenever that attack is going to hit you. Prayer flicking is also used to conserve your prayer points, which are up here. Prayer points drain down while your prayers are active, and a lot of times you don't have the resources in order to sustain a super long time, so use prayer flicking to only put your prayers on the tick that you're going to be hit on, and then you can flick off of it, and you can not drain your prayer by doing that, so you can last forever even without any kind of restoration to your prayer levels. Then the movement in RuneScape is really interesting because there's true tiles and there's the tile that your animation is on, so you have to know which tile you're going to be on during which tick based off of your move speed and your run speed. If you're running, you're going to be on different tiles than you are if you're not running. And yeah, that's about it. So you have to know which tiles you're on, which tiles are going to be hit, and how you can move around while prayer flicking. So you end up doing this thing where you're sort of triggering between your inventory to change your combat style, to change to different weapons for different phases, then flicking back over to prayer to change your prayers. Then you're moving to the tile that's going to be safe during this tick, and it becomes an insane process that is super active, way more than just clicking cooldowns.
Viewer that typically watches my videos. So instead, I'll just say that on the high end of RuneScape gameplay, the game plays like an FPS combined with a rhythm game rather than a typical MMO. Look at this clip from one of the best PKers in the game. Just look at the speed of the mouse and the precision of the clicks. It's so insane that it's hard to even wrap my head around. Here's a clip from one of the best PVM players taking on the Awakened Leviathan boss. Once again, insane click precision, perfect player movement, and incredible timing. RuneScape.
So you can see, if we go back a little bit, you can see in this image, this is the tile that he's animated on. This is the tile that he's actually on during that tick, and you can see that that tile is moving every single time. He's using a plugin to show him all of these things. All of the different colored tiles are for different phases of the fight, and he is moving back and forth to avoid the waves of attacks while clicking on the enemy in order for him to be able to attack during his movement.
Player movement and incredible timing. RuneScape has...
So it's almost like iframes, right? You can skip through when he comes through, boom, then he moves back, then he's iframed through it.
RuneScape has content for players of all levels, but definitely don't let the game's simplicity fool you into thinking there's no challenger endgame, because that couldn't be further from the truth. And honestly, most players will never become good enough to beat all of the content.
Yep.
So is RuneScape worth...
You are going to get, if you start playing RuneScape and you're not an exceptional gamer, you're going to get hundreds of hours of fun out of it. And you're going to hit a wall at some point that you don't want to progress through, and you're going to leave RuneScape. And then months and months are going to go by, and you're going to think, you know what, that game is really fun. I want to go back and play some more of that. And you're going to go back and play some more, and you're going to inexplicably break through that challenge and move on to the next thing. And then you're going to play for a little while and hit another wall. Now, you might be someone who's hyper obsessive, and you just grind and grind and grind and grind forever. But for the majority of people, that's probably going to be your cycle of RuneScape. Hence why people always say you never quit RuneScape, you only take breaks.
Playing in 2024. Is it too late to start playing if you've never played the game before? Honestly, one of the main reasons I returned to the game was that I realised RuneScape is simply a timeless MMO. In terms of actual design, how everything in the game is interconnected from skills to quests, level requirements.
It is the only MMO of its kind that is still extremely popular in the format that it was back then. You think about World of Warcraft. I know that Vanilla WoW had its moment and people played it and enjoyed it, but World of Warcraft has moved to a more modern style of gameplay. It has moved away from interconnected design. It has moved away from the necessity to group up with people. It has moved away from all these things that made MMOs great. RuneScape has stayed the way that it was before and only improved on those mechanics and built around the foundation that they already had. There are other games like this that have stuck around, such as EverQuest and Ultima, but those games are so much less popular now that they don't draw people in because nobody wants to play a dead game. RuneScape is not a dead game. It is thriving. I mean, thriving in ways that people wouldn't have thought it would. And it's such a niche game, too. But it's having this moment in 2024. It's really coming back because Settled is pushing the community in this way that it's never seen before. He's bringing in all of these new people. I mean, he's going to probably hit 1 million subs before this year is over. He'll be the first RuneScape YouTuber to ever hit 1 million subs. He is I mean, him and Jimmy and all of the people who are, Chaos, all of these people who are making content on RuneScape right now are doing amazing things for this company, and the game is just blowing up. If you are not involved in RuneScape, you should start now if you're someone who's remotely interested, because you are going to want to be here in the next 10 years as this game just continues to expand and expand and expand and expand. And the skill ceiling is just going to keep going up and up and up and up. They're going to keep adding in more and more difficult stuff, and you want to be on this train. Trust me, it's going to be good.
Items and progression. It's simply the most perfectly designed MMORPG that's ever been made. Old school RuneScape will still be here in 10 years' time. It's constantly being updated,
It'll be here in 20.
And my biggest regret is that I didn't play Iron Man mode sooner or keep up to date with all of the new content that's been added. It's a game that you can play as actively or as AFK as you want. Want to do 200 APM raids or PKing? You can do that. Want to AFK train combat, cut trees or fish whilst playing another game on your main monitor? You can also do that. I definitely don't think it's too late to start playing OSRS since it has a massive growing player base, and personally, when it comes to community, I think this game has the best community out of every other MMO.
I agree, the love for this game is so intense. I often talk about the way that Final Fantasy XIV's community has a massive love for the game, and when you look on the Reddit, you see a bunch of people who really, really like it, but when you look on the RuneScape Reddit, it's a completely different vibe, and I would even say more positive. People are so glad to be playing this game. People love being in on the little jokes. People love showing you things that you would only know if you were a couple hundred hours into playing RuneScape or if you've been playing it for a really long time, and to have that knowledge enough to be in on that joke. It is such a fun little community to be a part of, and there is few posts on Reddit that give me the giggles like an old school RuneScape post that is just super good.
MMO. Additionally, the content creators that cover this game are also S tier.
Yeah.
Like when I play WoW, there was maybe 5 to 10 content creators that I'd watch, but for
when you play WoW, I spent so many hours playing WoW and just watching Asmongold talk about World of Warcraft because he was like the only one who had a personality that I enjoyed listening to about that game. And with RuneScape, there's just so many. I have so many content creators that I enjoy watching and learning from because they all play the game in a different way. There's one specifically for PvP, and when you watch them do challenges, you can hear the excitement in their voice when they get a kill. There's people who specifically do merchanting and just love to play the economy and figure out ways to get rich in RuneScape really, really quick, to get a bond in 24 hours of making your account. There's, people like Settled who are extremely good at PvM and go out there and figure out how to beat the game in all of these really interesting, bizarre ways, like locking themselves to specific regions and never leaving that region. There's people like Jimmy who are out here making these really, really good videos, sort of exploring the community and exploring the history of RuneScape and talking about the what ifs and all these things about how things came to be. It's just such an amazing time to be playing RuneScape, and I am just so glad that I had the experience of the kid who was playing this game because he didn't have access to a computer that was good enough to play any other MMO.
RuneScape, there's like 20 plus who I'd consider top tier. I suppose an interesting question to ask would be, is this game successful purely because of nostalgia?
Nah.
And personally, I don't think so. And
nostalgia really helps get people back in the door. Nostalgia has sown the seeds of the new community for old school RuneScape, but nostalgia is not the reason that people are still playing it. People are still playing it because it is a really top tier video game, not even MMO, top tier video game. And you can see that by the fact that people play hardcore and Ultimate Iron Mans completely by themselves without ever grouping up with anyone else and still have thousands of hours of enjoyment out of it. It is a great video game. It has nothing to do with it being an MMO. You don't need to. It's not good if you play with friends. That's not the argument that gets made with this game. It is amazingly good if you enjoy questing, if you enjoy PvM, if you enjoy economies, if you enjoy puzzle solving. If you like the look of King's Quest and old point-and-click games like Sam & Max and Leisure Suit Larry and Space Quest and all of those games, RuneScape holds something for you that you can't even begin to imagine how good it is. The amount of really interesting quest lines. Imagine one of those amazingly good old point-and-click RPGs that just never ends. Imagine Baldur's Gate 1 or 2 and it never ends, dude. It keeps going forever, and there's always new heights to strive for.
I have put this to the test. I showed OSRS to my girlfriend last week, and at first glance, she laughed at the game and didn't want to play it. I told her, play it for 5 hours and just trust me that it's good. 1 week later, she's still playing and starting to get addicted, so there's gotta be something more to it than just nostalgia. Usually I do a pros and cons list for these types of videos, but I feel like I've rambled on and gushed too much about the game already, so I'll just put some pros and cons on screen so you can read them for yourself.
The mini games in RuneScape are incredible. I will definitely give it that one as well. Pest Control is a lot of fun as a new player mini game. Castle Wars, if you can find people to do Castle Wars is great. Barbarian Assault, it kind of sucks, but it can be really fun if you have the right people. There's so many mini games in RuneScape that if you do have friends who play games with you, there is so much stuff for you guys to do together, and it will actively build up your account to do those things together. It is a game that rewards you for having fun and also rewards you for grinding. So however you want to play it, you can do that and you will get rewarded for it, whether it be with XP, gear upgrades, mobility upgrades. I mean, building your house in RuneScape is one of the most important things for the gameplay because of its ease of accessibility for teleports and the ability to store items in easy to access places. The home teleport spell in RuneScape is probably, in my opinion, or teleport to house, not home teleport, is probably one of the most game-changing things when you start to understand everything that you can do inside of your player-owned house. It's not just a place to decorate. It's your hub. It is the place that you will do everything from. It's so good, dude. I just can't gush about this game enough. Truly, I cannot. Yep. Oh, yeah, and it's on your phone, bro. Bots are a problem that need to be addressed by RuneScape, and I think they are working on things to address it. They just can't tell us what those things are, because if they tell us, then it tips the bots off and can circumvent what they're trying to do. Yeah, a lot of this is true.
Yes! Yes, yes.
Dude, that feeling. Oh.
Oh, they said it couldn't be done.
Oh my gosh, I'm really gonna die. Oh my gosh. What?
Holy sh!
I had a moment like this recently when I was trying to rush X marks the spot, and I couldn't remember if it took me in a drainer or not, so I was only allowed to get somewhat close to drainer. And I'm in level 3, and the guard, the prison guard, was just attacking me, and I was like, no. Just when you're about to die in RuneScape, I don't know about you guys, but I just go into a real deal survival mode where I'm just like, please, just clicking run and trying to click away and just panicking.
The mini-map, you guys made it! That is some impressive coordination.
Yes! I actually did it! I actually did it! What is this like?
What the fuck? Look how laggy it is. The hit didn't even spawn.
Props, guys. Props. Big moments, man.
And that's pretty much it for this video. TLDW, right now I'm completely addicted to the game, and I can't believe how many good changes there's been since the last time I played. RuneScape Iron Man mode is definitely one of the most fun and addictive experiences I've ever had in an MMO. If you're
Get out there and play RuneScape is basically the synopsis of all of this. If you are not playing, if you have never played, you are missing out on something that will change your entire thoughts about what a video game can be and what a video game should be. You will understand that the MMO that you've been looking for all of this time has been right in front of you, and you've been too self-righteous to give it the true opportunity that it deserves. It is a game that you can quite literally do anything that you want because the boundaries of the game are so thin that you can easily break them and mold them and make them what you want them to be. They constantly add in content that allows you to play the game legitimately in ways that players are creating. Iron Man, Ultimate Iron Man, Hardcore Iron Man were all added because of people who had created those game modes with their own plugins and their own desire to just challenge themselves more. This game is unlike any other game that you will ever play. There is nothing like it, and there never will be anything like it again unless people really start taking notice, and you should just play it, dude. Play it.
If you're a new player to old school RuneScape that never played it back in the day, I'd love to hear your experiences with the game so far in the comments below. Do you think this game is genuinely good due to its game design, or is it popular only because of nostalgia? I saw Asmongold react to a video from Jimmy about this topic recently, and I actually disagree with Asmon on this one.
Me too.
So it'd be cool to hear from
Asmon is stuck in the idea that this game doesn't have anything to offer because he didn't give it enough of his time, so he believes that people are only playing it because of nostalgia, but people are coming to it for nostalgia. People are playing it for a super long time because it is actually good. I play World of Warcraft mainly for nostalgia because I missed out on World of Warcraft and always saw videos of it on Cheat or South Park or all these different outlets back in the day, and I always wanted to play it, and I never got to really experience what was special about it. And now as an adult, I get to go back and do those things, but it's not... It's good. I like World of Warcraft. It can be fun in moments, but it's kind of boring. Grinding a character up to max level is sort of just mindless. Doing the raids later on is just a game of politics with a whole bunch of other human beings. The game itself has degraded in crazy ways, but RuneScape is a game that when I play it, I have fun every time, and I wish I had more time to play it. So go play it. Give the video a like. Subscribe to Lazy Peon. He makes great content, obviously. And guys, be safe out there. I'll see you guys next time. Also, sorry for making a bunch of RuneScape content, but I'm super into it right now, and there's content coming out, so I might as well cover it.